Hello, third graders. Welcome back and welcome to our last week of instruction before spring break. Today is my favorite purpose, genre. So here we go with our I can statement. I can identify features of a fairy tale. Say that with me on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. I can identify features of a fairy tale. So your to-do is to watch this mini lesson video and then complete your Monday genre workbook page. Your Monday genre workbook page is this text right here. And the video will teach you how to complete that page. So when we are identifying features of a fairy tale, there are certain strategies that we can use. This week, you will be reading a fairy tale, Juanita and the Beanstalk, and the Chickpea Boy. So today, we will read together Juanita and the Beanstalk. Then, starting Wednesday, you will independently read the Chickpea Boy. Here are the strategies that we can use to identify features of a fairy tale. We can think about how it is a made-up story with events that can't really happen. It usually has magical characters and a magical setting. Okay? And it almost always has a happy ending that teaches us a lesson. All right, let's review those again. Very important that it's a made-up story with events that can't really happen. Magical characters and settings, so something magical will happen. And it almost always has a happy ending with a lesson or a theme that teaches us how to be a better person. So we're going to go into the text and read it for the gist to identify those features of a fairy tale. Again, we are going to read Juanita and the Beanstalk, thinking about the features of a fairy tale. I love looking at the illustrations and thinking about what I already know to help me make predictions. So let's do that as readers. I see Juanita, and she looks pretty upset. And then I see her mom. It looks as if she's giving her news that's making Juanita upset. And then I see the goat, who looks pretty sad. Well, then over here, I see Juanita with the goat and a man. So now I'm going to connect it to the title, Juanita and the Beanstalk. That makes me think of the Beanstalk story with the giant, where a little boy has to go to town and make money for his mom so that they can buy food, but he sells I think it's his hen, for magical beans. And then the mom throws the magical beans out the window and a beanstalk grows. And then he can go and get the riches from the giant up in the sky. So now with that background knowledge, I am predicting that Juanita has to sell her goat to get money for her mom, but then she ends up trading her goat for magical beans that might be in this old gentleman's hand. And then maybe she'll find riches up in the sky because of the magical beanstalk. So I'm using what I know as a reader, the illustrations in my title, to make a prediction for this fairy tale. And a feature of that prediction is magical beans. So I'm predicting using a feature of a fairy tale. Let's read to confirm and identify those features of a fairy tale. Juanita lived in a small, humble cottage with her mama and her pet goat, Pepe. One day, Mama said, "There has been no rain and our garden is dried up. Juanita, you must go to town and sell your goat. Use the money you get as payment to buy some food." Right there, we're confirming our prediction. That's similar to Jack and the Beanstalk. Juanita has to go to town to make money for her mom. "I don't want to sell Pepe," cried Juanita. She petted the goat lovingly, but she was an obedient girl and would not disobey her mother. Reluctantly, she took Pepe to town. On her way, she met an old man who patted Pepe kindly. "He is for sale," said Juanita with tears in her eyes. The man replied, I have no money, but I have some special frijoles. If you plant these beans, you will never go hungry again. We can barter, and I will trade you these beans for your goat. All right, there's one feature of a fairy tale, those magical beans. Notice these illustrations. I see a magical setting, a beanstalk growing from ground to sky. So we have magical events taking place, a magical setting, and Juanita and her mom are not real characters. So this is a made-up story with magical events and a magical setting. And now we just have to think about the lesson that we're going to learn and the happy ending. So there's almost always a happy ending, and I see down here in the illustration that Juanita is close to her goat. Maybe she gets her goat back. Juanita thought carefully as she considered the man's offer. He seemed caring and considerate. Certainly he would be kind to Pepe, so Juanita finally decided to sell Pepe. She accepted the beans. When Juanita got home, Mama was upset with her decision. You have returned home with no food and no money? She exclaimed. Juanita had to admit that Mama was right. All she had were 3 beans, and she still missed Pepe. Worst of all, Mama was unhappy. Juanita planted the beans in the backyard and went to bed. The next morning she woke up and went outside. A gigantic beanstalk as tall as the clouds stood where Juanita had planted the beans. There's a feature of the fairy tale. A magical beanstalk from these beans is going all the way up to the clouds. Let's read on. Juanita was curious. I'm going to see what's up there, she said to herself. So Juanita climbed the beanstalk. At the top, she saw a grand and magnificent palace in the middle of a field. She knocked on the door, and a maid answered. Hide! Cried the maid. The giant is coming now, and he doesn't like strangers. So Juanita quickly crawled under the table. Hey, this does match Jack and the Beanstalk. There's a giant up in the clouds. So we made a prediction earlier based on our background knowledge of already have read Jack and the Beanstalk. Let's read on. The giant stopped in carrying an unhappy hen in a cage. He said, Lay, hen, lay. Juanita's curiosity grew, and she peeked from under the table. Then she saw the hen's creation. Juanita gasped. It was a golden egg! The poor hen reminded Juanita of Pepe. She wanted to give it a better home. She ran between the giant's legs and grabbed the cage. She raced to the beanstalk. The giant roared in anger and chased after her. Juanita was able to slide down the beanstalk, but the giant was too heavy. He caused the stalk to break and crash to the ground. The beanstalk was gone forever, and Juanita and the hen were safe. There's a magical event taking place. There's no such thing as giants. There's no such thing as a beanstalk bringing you up into a fairyland above the clouds. And there's no such thing as hens laying golden eggs. So there are some key details that support that this is a fairy tale with magical events and characters. Let's read on in that last paragraph. The hen was happy to have a new home and laid many golden eggs. Mama was happy to use the eggs to buy everything that she needed. Mama was happy to use the eggs to buy everything they needed. And Juanita was happy because she was able to trade a golden egg with the old man to get Pepe back. There's a lesson right there. Juanita worked so hard and kept her faith that she was able to accomplish her goal of keeping Pepe. So we have met all 3 features of a fairy tale. We have made up events that can't really happen in real life. We have magical events and characters, and we learned a lesson. All right, 3rd graders, we are now going to take our learning and we're going to use what we know to answer these questions. These questions are going to ask us what we know about fairy tales, because that was our purpose for learning today, to identify the features of a fairy tale. You can use this video to help you with your workbook page. Now remember, our second purpose when we answer questions is to always use race. So we are going to restate and answer those questions. And when we can support it with text evidence, we need text evidence, at least 2 pieces. So here's our first question. A fairy tale tells about events that could happen in real life. What in the story makes it a fairy tale? Okay, we're going to restate that question. We're going to cross off the question words. What? This story is a fairy tale. And look at, we get that from the text. The story is a fairy tale because, and now we're using our information from our slide, the events couldn't happen in real life. So notice we got our answer directly from this slide. Events that can't really happen. Now we need to support that restatement and that answer with text evidence. For example, that shows that we have one piece of evidence, and then the text also that shows a second piece of text evidence. For example, the story has a magical character like a giant. The text also has a magical hen that lays golden eggs. So we identified the magical characters in the story. Number 2, is the ending of this fairy tale happy or sad? Again, restate. The ending of this fairy tale is, now remember, we take the words from the question. The ending of this fairy tale is, and here's our answer, happy. Now, what are we going to support that restatement and answer with? You got it. Text evidence. How many pieces of text evidence? You got it. 2. Here's our text starter. For example, here's another text starter, another example. So an example of the fairy tale being happy. For example, Juanita saves the hen from the giant. That's a happy event. Another example is Juanita trades the old man a golden egg for Pepe and she gets Pepe back. That's another happy event. Number 3, what literary element do fairy tales usually have at the end? What are we going to do to answer this question? You got it. Restate and then answer. The literary element that fairy tales usually have at the end are a lesson. That's our answer, lesson. If you write theme, that is the same idea. Theme and lesson mean the same thing, they just sound different. Now, number 4, that's the text evidence. What is the lesson? So what do you think the message or lesson of this fairy tale is? If you are courageous, good things will happen to you. So 3rd graders, that brings us right back to our purpose. We identified features of a fairy tale. Remember, it's events that can't really happen, magical characters and setting, and a happy ending with a lesson at the end. All right, good luck, and make sure that you use all of your knowledge to complete your workbook page. Enjoy, 3rd graders. Bye.